sunshine. Living it up in the sunshine. Living it up in the sunshine. Living it up in the sunshine. Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. We'll get our event this morning underway. We are still awaiting some representatives. Stephen Jones has not arrived as yet, but I believe is on his way. My name is Richard Cockerell. I'm the Zone Manager for the Illawarra, for those that haven't met me. I have the pleasure and take great pride in being responsible for this group of people and all of our other volunteers in the Illawarra. And just excuse me, we'll welcome Mr. Jones. Before we go on, however, I would like to acknowledge that this ceremony is being held on Aboriginal land and recognise the strength, resilience and capacity of Aboriginal people as the custodians of this land. I'd like to welcome our special guests, Commissioner Shane Fitzsimmons, AFSM, Commissioner of New South Wales Rural Fire Service, Miss Anna Watson MP, State Member for Shellharbour, Councillor Kelly Marsh, Shellharbour City Council representing Mr Gareth Ward MP, State Member for Kiama, Councillor Gordon Bradbury, Lord Mayor of Wollongong City Council, Mr Stephen Jones MP, Federal Member for Throsby, Councillor Chris Connor, Wollongong City Council. Certainly I'd like to welcome all the brigade officers, service members, ladies and gentlemen, but more specifically our recipients today, and indeed the Dapto Brigade. Because we are here as well to recognise a great job and a great outcome over a long period of time by a very significant number of people. I do have apologies from the Honourable Michael Gallagher, MLC, Minister for Police and Emergency Services, Mr David Farmer, General Manager, Wollongong City Council, and Superintendent Jason Heffernan, Acting Regional Manager, New South Wales Rural Fire Service. That being said, I'll invite the Lord Mayor of Wollongong, Gordon Bradbury, to come and say a few words. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Before I go any further, I too would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather for this wonderful occasion and pay my respects to elders past and present. To our distinguished guests, Stephen Jones, the Member for Throsby, Anna Watson, the State Member for Shellharbour, and also Kelly Marsh, who's representing Gareth Ward from the State Seat of Kiama, and my colleague, the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Chris Connor. Distinguished guests, as well as those from the hierarchy of the Rural Fire Service, and all those who have worked so hard to facilitate this wonderful occasion, and more specifically to work hard in establishing these incredible facilities. And today we celebrate the coming together of our community. Time and time again, when we call on our community to help, we find out that things that about them and skills and abilities that we never knew. But when we mobilise as a community, what we can achieve. I love the quote from Henry Ford, which really sums up our community. Coming together is a beginning. Keeping together is progress. Working together is success. And that means that within the framework of the emergency services, we live in a safe and secure community. You know, I've been overseas a lot and I've been in parts of the world, and I just came back from Sri Lanka and inquiring about the tsunami response in Sri Lanka and its implications for that country that's still going on. And, you know, it was every person for themselves. The struggle of individuals to find life and opportunities again, as well as to bury their dead and meet the needs of the community, was all left up to the individuals to find their way through that catastrophe. But not so in our community, inasmuch that we have services like the Rural Fire Service that have and do contribute to the successful safety and security of our community and region. We are proud and honoured to have people such as you in our community. Yourselves and your commitment What you have achieved and what you have given is only recognised in a medal, a statement, but there is a lot more. You can take pride in the fact that our community is a safe and also a secure community. As Lord Mayor of the City of Wollongong, as you now know, I have personally witnessed many emergency situations. I have worked alongside you and watched your professionalism. I have watched your commitment, but also been there with you in times of personal tragedy. But on behalf of the community, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you to every single man and woman in the emergency services, and more specifically in the Rural Fire Service. You have achieved much, and this facility reflects your efforts as well as the contribution of Council, State Government and other agencies and donations. Well done everyone, congratulations.
Thank you, Lord Mayor.
I want to acknowledge the service of the RFS men and the RFS women. In a few moments, a special presentations will be made to 34 of the RFS personnel. This is a very special day for them and a very special day for their families. As we look to each and every one of these fine men and women as they are presented with their medals and their clasps, I just ask you to keep in mind that you are seeing men and women who have had nearly 600 years of service between them. So if you just think about that for a minute, 600 years of service between those, amongst those 34 men and women is just truly amazing. It is a truly impressive level of commitment to our community. I would just like to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to say some brief remarks on this very significant day, and I wish each and every one of you all the very best.
Thank you, Anna. When your fourth drop, most of the good stuff's already been said, so I'm going to keep it very, very brief. It's been said a few times already this morning that the importance of mornings like this is to acknowledge the contribution of volunteers in my community, and I see many of you, like myself, have brought your kids along. I think it's really important that we take opportunities like this to pass on that ethic of volunteering and ensuring that it doesn't die with our generation, that as we come to events or as we're saying goodbye to our kids in the morning and telling them we're off to go and do something, we're explaining to them the importance of why we do it. Otherwise we'll find ourselves in 10 or 15 years' time scrambling around for volunteers to do the important work that we do. While we're acknowledging volunteers, thousands of people volunteer every day, every week in this community to do all sorts of things. Not every one of those thousands of people volunteers in a way that's putting themselves on the line, and that's why it's very important that we acknowledge not only your volunteering but the fact that you're doing really important work keeping our houses and our communities safe, not just here in the Illawarra. I know that many of you have been called on to help other communities that need, whether it's in the Blue Mountains or a bit closer to home with the fires up on Picton and over the ridge quite recently up in the Hawkesbury. I know that the men and women of this brigade are always ready, willing and able to travel great distances, putting their own lives and putting their families on hold to help a mate in need. That is what it is to be a member of the Rural Fire Brigade, but also to be an Australian. So you're doing a great job. It is well respected. This is a fantastic facility in a beautiful part of the world, I've got to say. I don't get out here enough. It's a beautiful part of the world, and we've put in the prayers for a great morning. You've done a great job. Wonderful to be with you and recognising the great work that you do on behalf of our community. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Our final address this morning before we move on to some presentations is from our Commissioner, Shane Fitzsimmons. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for the invitation to join today. It's a wonderful occasion and another huge milestone for the Rural Fire Service, for the Illawarra community, but particularly for the Dapto Brigade. Can I too acknowledge all our special guests up the front here, our elected leaders at all levels of government, to join in this very special occasion today. And whilst I'm not going to single any of them out, what I will say is to have so many from local, state and federal government is indeed indicative of the commitment of our local members, but also the high regard in which the RFS volunteers are held, and to be able to come out on a Sunday morning, I think speaks volumes of the admiration and respect that our elected leaders have for the work that the brigades do. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. What a year we've had as a rural fire service. It has been quite extraordinary. It's been an interesting time as I reflect a little over the most recent fire season, and of course you can't ignore the dominance of a dry landscape and really hot spring and start to summer, where we saw some pretty significant fire activity and indeed some pretty widespread damage and destruction and devastation to different communities that found themselves in the path of the fire. 2013 started out at the beginning of the year with fires up around places like Coonabarabran, down through the central west southern ranges, places like Yass and what have you, and right through to the coastal fringe as well, around Cooma Monero and of course the Shoalhaven. We then moved into the 13-14 fire season, where we saw again an absence of moisture and some pretty severe hot, dry, windy weather conditions that dominated, resulting in fires across the Blue Mountains region, particularly during October. The worst of the events were during October, where we saw fires across the Blue Mountains region, Lithgow, Hawkesbury and Blue Mountains. It was mentioned already down through the Southern Highlands, around places like Picton, but we also had it right up through Port Stephens and the Central Coast. A lot of those fires were running concurrently, and we saw some of the worst damage and destruction through the lower Blue Mountains, through places like Winmalee, where more than 200 homes were destroyed in one afternoon. We saw more than 150 homes significantly damaged as a result of the fire. What was extraordinary, and it's already been mentioned today, is that brigades came from right across the state and travelled very long distances to support their colleagues, to support each other, and try and provide the best level of protection they could to the communities that found themselves in harm's way. And Dapto Brigade and the Illawarra certainly provided their fair share of firefighters to assist with the fires that we were dealing with here in New South Wales. I don't know if there were too many people, but I love Christmas when it's raining, and rain came. Rain came in November and December, and it was great. I don't care how many Christmas lunches were upset, but at least I know plenty of our people got to spend time at home over Christmas. But it was a little relief, because as we moved into January, the rain was welcome, but not substantial. And as we started to move into January, we had a whole lot of dry lightning that went across parts of New South Wales, particularly down through the southern ranges, down near our southern border region, right up through the back end of the central ranges, and again up through places like Coonabarabran and the northern tablelands of New South Wales. So we were right back into it again in January. Just as we were getting on top of those fires, there was a call for help from South Australia, and we ended up sending more than 430 personnel from New South Wales, members from right across different parts of the state, to go and help our colleagues in South Australia, whether that was incident management specialists, aviation specialists, frontline firefighters. The whole army of men and women from across the state put their hand up and said, yes, we can lend a hand. And it was interesting. As a commissioner, it is nice occasionally to get the only complaint from members that they're not getting to go and help their colleagues interstate, and there was literally thousands of people that were available and ready to assist. But just as we were getting to the end of the assistance in South Australia, because their situation was winding down, we saw more fires starting south of us in Victoria, and during the month of February we sent just over 1,000 personnel to Victoria. The RFS coordinated interstate deployments, RFS of course, but also our colleagues in Fire and Rescue New South Wales, National Parks, Forestry. We also coordinated resources out of the ACT, and ambulance special operations paramedics joined our firefighters in the front line to make sure we had the best protections possible. So Of those 1,000 personnel that were deployed, somewhere between 600 and 700 came from the RFS and, of course, RFS volunteers. So we should never underestimate, and it has been said already, that if it wasn't for volunteers, our communities locally and much further afield would be very much the poorer if it wasn't for what the men and women of the RFS and particularly their volunteer brothers and sisters in different agencies contribute to communities right across the state. Volunteerism is extremely valuable to any community and is a critical part of the social fabric that we find in any small town, in any big regional centre. Without volunteers, we would all be very much the poorer. So my simple message is thank you. Thank you for another year of extraordinary commitment in some of the most adverse and difficult of conditions. To actually come away from all those fire grounds with basically, sure, there's been damage and devastation with people's homes, and I don't detract from that in any way whatsoever, but not to be counting lives is just extraordinary. And having said that too, I don't take away at all from the fellow that was found in his yard trying to defend his home up at Lake Mamora, and of course our contracted pilot that was operating just a little further south from here, down in the south coast around Shoalhaven, Eurobodalla, where his plane, as he was going in to do another bombing run, the wing fell off the plane and he plummeted into the ground and was killed as a result of that accident. So it is not a season without loss, but if I look at this year, if I look at January of this year, it marks 20 years since the devastating 94 fires that affected so much of New South Wales, and the damage and the destruction and the lives lost are certainly a reminder of the need for us all to continue to invest in providing a better environment and a better amenity for our men and women, so that they can do their jobs as safely and as effectively as they can to limit the impact and preserve life as much as possible as we deal with fires in any given year. On that note, what a wonderful day it is today to be celebrating this extraordinary facility. Driving down the road, I looked across and I thought, does this station ever bloody end? It just keeps going and going and going. And I say that because I'm very jealous. I was up at my... Harvey, where are you? You can gloat. I was up at my old brigade station yesterday afternoon for their annual general meeting, and that's a very modest little fire station that we were pretty proud of our extensions, but our extensions and the station would all fit in the 3 bays we got here. So well done to Dapto Brigade, but I think it's indicative of a bit of the Field of Dreams thing. Build it and they will come. You start putting facilities in place, training facilities that's already been said are widely used to provide expert professional development in skill and technique and ability to enable our men and women to do all that work more safely and more effectively. Stories of being able to not fit trucks in stations is a good and bad story, because number one, it tells us the appliances are modernising and getting better, and it's about time we upgraded the stations to house that state-of-the-art equipment. And we've seen over the last couple of decades particularly extraordinary investment in our fleet, and now we've got the resources to match. Richard Cottrell tells me the best part of the extension is the suspended ceiling in the training room. I understand that's because he did it. I did point that out for you, Richard. But on a serious note, you look at the appliances we've got here today, and you think about just how far people have travelled in the last season alone. It's only back in the 20 years ago, it's only back in the 94 fires that a lot of our brigades were still relying on their vehicles being ex-army, blitz wagons and AB-160s and Bedfords. You were lucky if they made it from here to Wollongong, let alone from here to Coonabarabran or Blue Mountains or Victoria, South Australia, to assist in firefighting efforts. So to see the partnership with local government, state government and the community being able to invest and get state-of-the-art dedicated facilities over the last few decades is just wonderful. So these facilities will not only provide the amenity and the focus for the Dapto Brigade. It is for the community, it is for the broader emergency management community, with the training and the facilities being available. And what we have found time and time again, and again it's coming through the independent research, and one of the speakers earlier said it is a home. It's a home for the members, it's a home for the community. Despite the uptake of technology, despite the work of media in giving communities warnings and information, the research shows that they want to touch base with their locals. They know that if they go down to that fire station, they can get the latest bit of information. They can identify, is there something they can do to lend a hand? Does someone need, a cup of tea and coffee or something? Is there anything we can do? So the station becomes a critical part in that local community to build confidence, to build trust, and in times of need, to be a reference point for information and validation of what they're hearing right across the board. So congratulations to the Brigade. I am so pleased to see acknowledgements of all those that have contributed, and it is a community. The grants have been mentioned, the funding's been mentioned, but the volunteering of goods and services from the community is just wonderful. And from what I understand, having a brief conversation with Harvey and Richard earlier, I think pretty much everything in here, the labour was basically volunteer labour. The members of the brigade have pretty much done everything except pour the concrete. They got someone else to do that, and I don't blame them. But I think that speaks volumes of the investment of that investment of the community into the end result. It's already been mentioned, 31 members today picking up a number of medals. Some of those are getting long service medals, but also national medals. And the nearly 600 years of service just speaks volumes of longevity, of commitment and dedication of the men and women. You look at those individuals, and the two categories of medals being awarded today are the national medal. A national medal is awarded for diligent service above and beyond. They're recognised at 15 years, and there's a class for every 10 years thereafter. Those nominations are subject to scrutiny locally, they're subject to scrutiny through the organisation, and then they end up down in the Federal Honours and Awards Secretariat in Canberra to be validated for their worthiness for issue. And today we're seeing 8 national medal recipients as part of the 31 individuals being acknowledged. We're also seeing long service medals, and it was only in 2009 that we introduced the long service medal. Prior to that, the Rural Fire Service didn't have anything that had a place of order and precedence under any national or jurisdictional honours and awards program. We did have a long service badge. We had a long service badge that was around recognising 15, 25, 35 and 50 years of service. Today, we've got a long service medal that is registered, that is recognised and has place of order and precedence under the Australian and New South Wales Honours and Awards program. That medal recognises long service, dedicated, diligent long service, starting at 10 years, and there are clasps that are issued for every decade thereafter. It is a fitting tribute to recognise long service. Each and every medal is individually engraved. The ribbon has been registered, and the colours of the ribbon are lifted out of the Rural Fire Service crest that was the old Bushfire Brigade crest, representing the burning bush. So you've got the reds and the blues and the greens of the burning bush depicted in the ribbon that is the long service medal. As the Lord Mayor quite rightly said, in some ways the medals are but a token of recognition. And indeed they are, but it is important to acknowledge and appreciate that the sentiment behind the medal is certainly anything but tokenistic. It's our way, it's the community's way of saying thank you. It's our way of saying thank you and recognising decades and decades of service to the community. It's always dangerous to single somebody out, but I do notice that Ken Fleming, where's Ken hiding? Put your hand up, Ken. Ken Fleming up the back. He must have joined when he was about 5. Ken's knocking up 50 years of service and is being recognised for 50 years of service today. people like Ken have endured, and we can never lose sight of those that have done 40, 50, 60 years of service, because they really were the pioneers. They came on board and we had nothing or very little, and they've persevered and they've championed the cause and they've stuck with it. And if we all listen to Ken's citation later, it's not surprising that he's well regarded for his experience, for his insights, and is often a mentor to so many new members coming through the organisation. So it is fitting that we say thank you and recognise our long service. And I'll just finish by saying what has already been touched on, and that is a big thank you to the family and loved ones. It is a big sacrifice that our men and women do in terms of providing their service to the community. There's a lot of time away from home, and dare I say it, those families that are clever enough end up signing up their partner and their children and their uncles and aunts, because that's how they get to see them down at the brigade station, and probably in the working bee getting a building done. But we do know that there is a lot of time away from home and a lot of special time. I joked about a wet Christmas, but there are many Christmases that I can recall growing up in the brigade where the members of the RFS simply weren't at the Christmas table. The family might be hosting special things like Christmas lunch, New Year's lunch, some of the most precious time to family, and that's often when it coincides with the worst of our weather and the most challenging of situations. So my sincere appreciation goes out to the family and loved ones, because without that love and support and commitment at home, our members simply wouldn't be able to do what it is they do so regularly and so reliably. And as I said earlier, our communities would be very much the poorer if they weren't there doing all that work. So thank you very much, and I look forward to joining in officially opening the brigade extensions and of course handing out so many deserved National Medal and Long Service Medal awards today.
We're going to move on now to the presentation of medals, and I would ask that Commissioner Fitzsimmons and Lord Mayor Bradbury make their way forward, if you would. We've got a blue cross on the ground here, recipients, where we'll get you to make your way. What I will also do, if I could please, I'd ask our other invited guests just to make their way along to congratulate our recipients as well, if you would, ladies and gentlemen. And the first awards will be the award of the National Medal. As the Commissioner pointed out, the National Medal is a federal award. The ribbon on the National Medal is made up of 15 gold and blue bars or stripes, each stripe representing 1 year of service for the recipient. And it's gold and blue, as they are Australia's heraldic colours rather than the national colours of green and gold. Our next recipient of the National Medal is Aaron West for 17 years of service. Aaron joined the Helensburgh Brigade as a junior member in 1996 and obtained his basic firefighter soon after. Aaron advanced through the mainstream courses and became a Deputy Captain in June 2005, Senior Deputy Captain in June 2010, and was made Captain of the Brigade in June 2011, a position he currently holds. In addition to his contributions to local area emergencies, Aaron has attended a number of major fires across New South Wales, in Canberra, and attended the Waterfall Rail disaster. Aaron is receiving the National Medal for 17 years diligent service as a member of Helensburgh Rural Fire Brigade. The next recipient of the National Medal is Michael Pratt. Michael has committed 19 years of service. Michael joined the Royal Volunteer Coastal Patrol in 1993 and obtained a Level 2 skipper's qualification during his service with the Wollongong Division. In 2005, Michael joined Helensburgh Brigade and obtained basic firefighter and finished his service with Marine Rescue. Michael advanced through the mainstream courses and was the Brigade's first community safety officer. Michael's commitment to community safety was the driving force that saw the Brigade change their approach to community education, and now the Brigade is very actively involved in community safety. Michael's attended numerous bushfires, car accidents, vehicle fires, house fires and automatic fire alarms at Illawarra Hospital. He has played a vital part in the Brigade Open Days and attended the World Youth Day in 2008 as an RFS volunteer and policing team member. In addition to his contributions to local area emergencies, Michael has attended a number of fires across New South Wales. Michael is receiving the National Medal for 19 years diligent service as a member of the Helensburgh Brigade. The next recipient is Stephen Bockett, receiving the Long Service Medal for 12 years service as a member of Helensburgh Brigade. Pretty popular, eh? Our next recipient is Brad Samuel, receiving the Long Service Medal for his 13 years service as a member of Helensburgh Brigade. Again, just one final round of applause for all of our recipients. What a marvellous effort. Now I'll just hand over to our Commissioner, who'd like to say a few words.
I know it's not in the proceedings and I'll be in trouble, and you've all been very patient, but can I just say two things here right now? It is a pretty special day today on so many levels, but for me, normally, and I mentioned a lot of these recipients we just saw come up today, they've been all over this state, all over different parts of Australia, fighting fires under some of the most atrocious conditions. They don't fear anything, but crikey's they're frightened today, and it's wonderful. I love it. I love it. We do have a pretty privileged role up the front here to shake the hands and congratulate people personally, and given what they normally do in terms of providing service and protection to the community, you think they'd be pretty comfortable, but as you could see, people like Freddie are just hanging to shoot through. They don't want to be up here. You will not find a gathering of more sweaty palms anywhere in your life, and dare I say it, normally I feel pretty chuffed today because I get my own back, because normally when I'm bumping into this lot, they're giving me heaps, whether it's in a meeting or whether it's on a fire ground. They let me know exactly what they think, and they may not always be terribly polite about it. But today, to see them, I've never seen the gear so clean. To have ties on, I think speaks volumes. But it is true, as I talk about those sweaty palms and how uncomfortable they are to be up the front here. I think that is testimony, and I think that speaks volumes on why we take so much pride in A, having introduced a long service medal to recognise long service of our members, but B, that we take times on mornings like today to say thank you and recognise all the good that so many men and women are doing across this state. That humility, that want for signing up to do something for the community, it wasn't a decision that said, you know, one day we'll be sitting in the Dapto extension, in Ken's case, 50 years later, with the prospect that, you know, a bunch of clowns up the front are going to present a medal to me. They did it for the want of nothing other than to make a difference, to do their part in the local community, to look after their neighbour, to look after strangers, and to acknowledge 10 years, 20 years, right through to 50 or 60 years is just so important. And once again, I say thank you to all our elected leaders for joining today. Thank you to Richard and the team. Sally, It all went fine. You can relax now. Sally and Colette get really worried about how today's going to go because it is special. And of course, thank you again to the family and loved ones, but most of all, thank you to our very deserving Long Service Medal recipients, one and all. Well done.
Thank you, sir.